What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Infinite Reps podcast. You already know what it is. Trevor Stone here. If this is your first time watching, go ahead and subscribe, and also follow us on Instagram at KillerTrev12. Let's get right into it. But first, we are about the infinite expansion of the mind. To quote Marcus Garvey, intelligence rules the world and ignorance bears the burden. So we want to definitely always be getting to good content like this, right? This book right here is called Extreme Ownership, okay? This is Extreme Ownership by Jocko, Willink, and Leif Babin. How U.S. Navy SEALs lead and win, okay? So just some background on Jocko and his partner Leif Babin. These guys, like I said, these are Navy SEALs, right? Their task unit, okay, right? Their task unit is actually the most decorated special forces unit in the Iraq War, right? So these dudes, they're the definition of badass. They catch bodies, big bodies. And they took all the lessons that they learned in years of SEAL training and actual field combat, real life combat, catching bodies. They took the lessons in leadership that they learned, and they went ahead and formed a consulting firm, and they train companies and they train leaders and they train teams on high performance. Okay, just to keep it very simple, they train them how to win and how to perform at a high level. Okay, and just to kind of kick it off here, again, if I ever say something or you hear something, hopefully that makes you want to go ahead and do some research on your own. But remember, you can always go to the source, right? I don't ever want to be stealing somebody else's cloth, so you can always go to the source. I'm always going to show you where I get my information from, because again, all I know is that I know nothing at all. That's why I read books, okay? So again, we want to be dealing with theory here. We want to be dealing with principles and concepts that deal with the infinite expansion of the mind, right? We're going to program our subconscious mind so that we can have these theories already in our brain, so that when we deal with real life scenarios, we can act accordingly, okay? So just kind of getting into it here, combat is reflective of life, only amplified and intensified, okay? That's kind of how they start off the introduction, right? This book is great if you like stories, okay? So a great book. Very, very intense read. A lot of war stories, of course, but it's not for everybody. This one is not for everybody. This is like, I'll put this like in a category with like Tim Grover and like the relentless mindset. This is the opposite of the victim mentality. This is all about, you can see it right there. It says extreme ownership, accountability. Everything is your fault, okay? And when you take extreme ownership for everything going bad in your life, you can also take extreme ownership for every time you win in life, which is definitely how we can derive some power and some confidence. So combat is reflective of life, only amplified and intensified. Okay, so again, these guys, they get hired by companies. Companies pay them a lot of money to come and speak and teach their teams how to perform at the highest level. And there's certain things that go along with high performance. The definition of extreme ownership, it means that leaders must own everything in their world, okay? And when we talk about leadership, maybe you don't lead a team, maybe you don't lead other individuals per se, right? But you may have kids, right? You may have children, you may have younger siblings, nephews, whatever. But bottom line is, you are the leader of your own life. You are your own company, okay? And there's a certain way, if you're thinking of life as a business, right? There's effective and then there's ineffective, right? So extreme ownership means that that leaders must own everything in their life, and there is no one to blame, okay? There is no one to blame. It's all on you, okay? So just kind of breaking this down, right? Again, there's no one to blame. Bird box, Bandersnatch. You can go left or you can go right. But when you make that choice, again, the action that you took, you have to take responsibility for those actions. Good, bad, negative, whatever the case may be. Because again, once we take responsibility for the faulty, our faulty awareness, let's say, because, let's not like label our actions as good or bad. They don't make us bad people. It's just sometimes we're aware and sometimes we're unaware. And then we learn from those lessons, right? But again, there is no one else to blame. It's all on you. Extreme ownership. And this is how you build high performance, okay? So if you want to get into high performance, check out Extreme Ownership by Jocko, Willink, and Leif Babin, okay? So the only meaningful measurement for a leader is whether the team succeeds or fails. Same thing applies to the individual. We're going to apply all of this to the individual, right? Because again, we're individually trying to grow personally, right? So the only meaningful measurement for a leader is whether the team succeeds or fails. This applies to your own life. The only meaningful measurement in your own life is whether you win or you lost, right? Did you win or did you lose? And one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want obstacles in our lives to turn into excuses. Because what happens when we don't exhibit extreme ownership? Then the obstacles will turn into excuses. But when you say it's all on me, you have no choice but to either bow out, right? You can either tap out of life, or you can say, okay, it's on me to figure out how to get through this obstacle. But again, there's never no one else to blame. It's all on you, right? So I just want to hit that home. So they break down in the introduction, they keep it really, really simple, right? This is all really pretty straightforward, but it is very, very intense. And I like this book. This is one of my favorites, right? So when it comes to the characterization or the categorization of leaders, there's only two that matter, right? Of categories of all leaders, there's only two that matter: effective and ineffective. Again, wins and losses. Did your team win or did you lose? Did you win or did you lose, right? That's the only thing that matters. Either you were effective or you were ineffective, right? Effective leaders, they win. They succeed. Ineffective leaders lose. They are unsuccessful, right? And that's I don't know how else to say it. It's plain English there. So a big part of leadership that they break down here is that, one, you must admit your own mistakes, and then again take ownership for those mistakes, so that you can then develop a plan to overcome these obstacles, right? But once you recognize that the obstacles are on me, you can go ahead and plan effectively and intelligently, right? But again, it's all about taking ownership for everything, right? I just really want to get this point across, because that's really what this book is about. You can see it in the title: extreme ownership, right? And again, when it comes to these guys, it's literally life or death. These concepts, it comes down to life or death. Like if they slip up once, right, they're done. But obviously, these guys live to tell the story, right? So go check out their story. It's not my story, it's their story. Go check out their story and learn something from it. Because once we apply these principles in our minds through infinite repetitions, then we can actually apply them in actual real life scenarios, right? But you got to have the information. You got to have the awareness of the information. So a leader must own everything in his or her world. There is no one else to blame. Had to say it again, right? When subordinates, okay? Again, maybe you don't lead anybody, but let's say your subordinates are just your circumstances. When your circumstances aren't going the way they should, or your subordinates aren't doing what they should, it is the leader that must exercise extreme ownership. You cannot blame the subordinates. You cannot blame those under you. You cannot blame the people that follow you. You have to take responsibility, right? If your child is failing in school, that's your fault as a parent. Bottom line, right? And that's how you get better. That's how you get your child better at grades at school, right? And the same thing goes for any endeavor in your life. Anything you're trying to be successful at, anything you want to progress in, step one is to take full responsibility and accountability for results, right? Or lack thereof. Because if you whether you lack the results or you're getting the results that you want, right? You are the one that's in control. You have the power, right? And one thing that you have to do is you got to look into that mirror. You got to look into that mirror. You got to take full accountability, right? And I want to keep this one short. I want to keep this one real short. But again, this is a very intense read. Like I said, this is not for everybody. One, this podcast isn't for everybody, but this book especially is not for everyone. This is very, very. They don't. He doesn't mince his word. We're dealing with again, with war, like war stories, and again, life and death. Like sometimes you have no. You got to make split-second decisions, and when it comes down to it, if you're not on your P's and Q's, and you take that L, it could be the last L that you take. Okay, but remember, it was your fault. Bird box, you did it to yourself. Okay, Bandersnatch, you can go left or you can go right. But remember that you made the choice. Okay, so again, if you have, if I said anything that resonates with you, hopefully I did. If I said anything that resonates with you, go ahead and check out the source. Right, this is not my information. I'm just curating it for you. But again, we're dealing with the infinite expansion of the mind. We're dealing with positivity. We're dealing with empowerment, right? We're combating the narrative of negativity, of gossip. We're dealing with real life applicable information. So if you wanna get down with some good information, with some theory, go ahead and check out this book. Go ahead and check out previous videos. Check out the books that are in the previous videos. Apply these concepts to your life. But extreme ownership is, if there's one book, right? I think I said this about Relentless as well. If there's one book, it's this one, right? Pick this one up, right? Kind of put your politics aside if you don't like war stories or whatever the case may be, and get down to these principles, because these principles, again, they apply to everything that we deal with in life. We can take extreme ownership for everything that we deal with in life, okay? And I just want to read off that quote again, what he starts off with. What he said: combat is reflective of life, only amplified and intensified, okay? So maybe the stakes aren't as high, right? Maybe, we only get one life, but these dudes, they were playing for keeps out there in the Iraq war, okay? Catching bodies, right? And people were trying to kill them. So they had to be on their P's and Q's, and they're taking these lessons, they're taking these principles, and they're gifting it to you, right? Go buy the book, right? Go buy the book. Reciprocate. Definitely reciprocate. Go buy the book, and once you get these concepts in your subconscious mind, then once you go out and you deal with life, you'll have it there, and you can make an intelligent choice of whether you go left or right. You can make an intelligent decision. You can do it based off an expanded awareness, because your awareness is infinite. Okay? Infinite expansion of the mind. All right? So again, if you got book recommendations, hit us up at infiniterepsinfo@gmail.com. Send them there. And yeah, again, I'll just leave you with that Marcus Garvey quote again. Intelligence rules the world. Ignorance bears the burden. Okay, so get into some information.